that Penn State game off the top. Like I said, dude, they still can't beat Ohio State. They fall 20-13. Ohio State does get the big win. James Franklin crumbles. Ryan Day rises to the top in this one. Give me your takeaways on another classic that we saw in the Big Ten, man.
Well, man, like you said it really well. Penn State cannot seem to win the big game. I think they're a very overrated team. It shows in that game specifically. It was kind of like a defensive battle for the most part.
Right.
Like I said, they're squeaking by unranked opponents week in and week out. I mean, they struggled all game, really. They were held to. They had 10 points in the first quarter, and that was about the highlight for them. A field goal in the third.
Yep. The pick six was the highlight of their game for them.
All crickets rest of the game.
Yep.
And typical Penn State fashion, just can't win the big one. It's like, not that Ohio State stomped them out of the water or anything like that. Right. Like I said, their defense showed up, but Ohio State, they held their ground, did about what I expected them to do. Will Howard had a pretty decent game.
Right.
I still see them potentially making a case to play for the Big Ten championship, talking about the Buckeyes. But they still got to get through Indy. They still got to get through the Wolverines. 4 conference games left, I think. It's anybody's grab, really. But that's about all I got to say with it. I mean, they got another notch in their belt, so to speak, that Ohio State did, but there's more.
Yeah.
More tests coming for them.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. All eyes on that Indiana-Ohio State game as it is going to be coming up, shortly before we know it. Yeah, this was a tough one for Penn State, man. It was an absolute snooze fest after they get that pick six on Will Howard, which is on Will Howard's first pass of the game. And this was kind of a revenge game for Will Howard. I don't know if you guys heard coming into it. Will Howard grew up in Pennsylvania, so, obviously he's a native to there. He waited on a scholarship offer from Penn State and never received one. So walking in, the guy's already got a chip on his shoulder. And what worse way really to display that chip than to throw a pick six literally on your first pass of the game for Ohio State. Yep. Immense pressure. Penn State's up 10-0. The crowd is all in the game. A sellout crowd for the Nittany Lions at their home stadium. It was just absolutely nuts. I mean, the place was rocking. We had another college football instant classic that is within the 2024 season, and we just got to gobble it up, or as much as we could have again, with Penn State putting on, the snooze fest. The fumble touchback on Will Howard's run that took 7 points off the board. I thought that was a big point in the game. Ohio State really leaving 21 points on the board in this game. So they could have easily won this one going away by 35, 40 plus in this one, but obviously they didn't. And the final score is what it was. Even though you did have Will Howard missing some simple wide open throws, he missed a touchdown pass as well. You had Jeremiah Smith drop a touchdown pass in the fourth quarter in this game. So there was just a lot of opportunities left on the field for definitely both of them. But when you look at Ohio State, I guess it feels a little better to know that they drew some of these plays up and they just really weren't able to execute them. Possibly the play of the game, man. The interception in the end zone by Ohio State. It looks like Drew Aller gets his touchdown pass, only what would have been, Penn State touchdown of the game. It looked like a touchdown. Then they say incomplete. Then after the review, it was an interception. So just really solid refereeing here. And when you go back and look, I'm like, talk about a classic moment from a classic game. And then again, Penn State absolutely falling asleep. It was a snooze fest for this team. And this was against a makeshift offensive line of Ohio State as well, man. Mm-hmm. It's sad when you're leading rusher.
Least.
Literally. I mean, nobody expected Ohio State to have as much of an offensive push in the trenches as they did. And I think I can say that Ohio State fairly won on both sides of the ball in the trenches in this game.
Sure.
The Penn State offense was bad. Their leading rusher was a quarterback, not the mobile one in Bo Pribula, Drew Aller with the knee brace on, and a tight end. And your leading receiver was your running back with a little over 50 yards. I thought both of the teams ran the ball well and kind of creatively in some aspects. But again, the patchwork O-line of Ohio State really was a big thing in this one. And for them to be able to run the ball as well as they did, just an absolute testament. And I had Ohio State coming into this game, better program. Like you said, Penn State's overrated. They've been squeaking by some people. Now, we've seen Ohio State squeaking by as well, but I just didn't expect Penn State to come out with the victory in this one. The fourth quarter goal line stand from Ohio State was just sensational Ryan Day defense, that true brand of football. Penn State had no choice but to pass it on fourth down, and that was really stupid to have 3 straight run plays from the new offensive coordinator, Andy Kotelnicki. It was just very ugly to see.
Mm-hmm.
And even a better management of Ohio State with the trenches and later in this game. Quinshon Judkins' final drive of the game, 32 yards rushing. Ohio State starts from the 1-yard line with 5 minutes to go. Penn State has 3 timeouts. They never touch the ball again.
Correct.
They never touch the ball again. And with Ohio State leaving 21 points on the board, Penn State not being able to capitalize on it at home, you're up 10-0. You're on the 3-yard line twice with 2 possessions, and both of those end in a turnover on down. So Penn State just left everything on the field. It was honestly quite embarrassing. 6 of Penn State's 8 offensive drives ended in either a punt or a turnover. Both of those possessions, again, like I said, on the third down line, or the 3-yard line ended in a turnover on downs as well. The Penn State wide receivers were not good in this game, man. Again, I'm taking a big look at the OC for Penn State. Their wide receiver had 3 catches for 49 yards. Again, you're leading their wide receivers, every wide receiver on the team, Alan, not just one wide receiver, 3 catches for 49 yards. Every Penn State wide receiver combined in this game, 3 catches, 49 yards. You cannot win a football game of any magnitude playing like that. So numbers fall out for Penn State. They're 1-23 versus top 5 teams since 2000. They have 7 blown double-digit leads under James Franklin, the current head coach. 3 of those to Ohio State. James Franklin himself, a measly 1-9 versus this Ohio State team. But it's kind of like the Georgia and the Kirby Smart effect with Alabama. James Franklin against Michigan and Ohio State, a combined 4-16 record against those schools coming into 2024. Penn State is 0-7 against Ohio State and Michigan since 2021. They're 35-5 against all other opponents. So it really feels like the Georgia Kirby Smart, playing against Alabama type of thing. But kind of give me some of your thoughts on there, man. I mean, 1-23 versus top 5 teams, 1-9 versus Ohio State. It's ugly for this team when it comes to the big game.
You mentioned Kirby Smart. Their offense is looking a lot like UGA's right now. Not very productive, especially in the first half. Rather in this game, it was kind of flip-flopped. They were doing all right in the first half, sucked in the back half. If I'm James Franklin, I'm going to my receivers coach right away. Like, we've got to get the ball rolling. I mean, no pun intended.
You have to.
We've got to get the slot receiver, up to speed. We got to. I mean, do they not know the playbook? Like, what's going on?
Right.
Is it a skill
Bad
issue?
play calling.
Bad play calling. What's the as for not being able to beat ranked opponents? It might be some sort of head game with James, so to speak. Like you said with Alabama and Kirby Smart having that, ever since that national championship in 2017, they've been on his brain. But another takeaway I have, they're now number 6. They're still not out of it. They still have some hopes. But they're number 4 in the Big Ten. They don't have a chance at really sniffing the Big Ten championship, in my opinion, unless everything just goes off the rails in the Big Ten in the next few weeks, which is highly possible. Knowing this season, the parity has been real. But, I mean, I still think they're a bit overrated because, like you said, there's no offensive production there whatsoever. I mean, and as for Ohio State, they need to tighten up the offensive line if they want to get through somebody like Oregon again in the Big Ten championship, or someone like Indiana, because they're not going to roll over for you. You saw how bad they beat Nebraska and how close the Nebraska-Ohio State game was. So, I mean, you got to get a clue and better do it quick.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. Penn State falls to Ohio State 20-13. A little bit of a snooze fest again after Penn State comes out, big pick 6. And I was like, wow, huge pressure on Ohio State. Like, they got to play, and they got to play now. You're in not even arguably, you're in one of the hardest college football environments to play in. Over 110,000 people.
Yeah.
Biggest crowd ever at Penn State's home stadium. It was a whiteout. You probably couldn't breathe in there even if you wanted to. So I could only imagine the pressure of the crowd once once Will Howard threw that pick six. Y'all get in the chat, get in the comments. Let us know what y'all think of the Big Ten showdown between Penn State and Ohio State.